Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Sadly, she passed on 1/1/2020, so we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory and to advocate today for a cure for all those still battling Parkinson's and their families, because no one is ever alone in this fight for a cure. Today's guest is someone who's special, and I say that a lot because all of you are just really, I consider family, because this is not something that is always fun, but I feel together we can have a few moments of happiness and also just an incredible inspiration. And I wanted to welcome Grove to the show. It's just an honor to meet you. And like I said earlier, I feel like we've been friends for so long, but now it's truly an honor to have you here on the show. And thanks for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you, George. I'm delighted to be here. Big fan of what you've been doing, and just happy to be a part of this journey.
I really appreciate it. Just before we begin, I wanted to share a little message or kind of a quote. This is actually from Albert Einstein. He said, believe that life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And it's almost perfect for a show today because you are someone who really just keeps moving. And ironically, I just came from a turkey trot, which is a 5K. And last year I was in the hospital due to several back surgeries, and my wife and daughter still went, and I just felt like sad that day. And then today I feel like I'm falling apart, but I was able to make it through. So we never stop here. And that leads right into maybe you could, tell us a little bit about your, life and also what brought you to Parkinson's awareness.
You bet. Well, I have to say that it's funny because you mentioned that in terms of keep moving, and that's kind of my personal tagline. I'm a firm believer in that you have to keep moving, and that's keep moving through grief, keep moving through disease, keep moving through difficulties. Stagnation almost always leads to defeat. So I think it's an important lesson, especially for those in the Parkinson's community, that physical activity, if you are living with Parkinson's, physical activity is so key. That and I think the social nutrient are two probably the most important self-care kinds of things you can do with PD. But so my name is Grove Ayers. I have been active in the Parkinson's community for about 15 years or so. My Parkinson's story started with a phone call from my father when he was about 70. Had just had his routine physical and went to a neurological consultation after that. And he was calling to tell me that he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And it coincided with him selling his business. So he told me, okay, well, so Parkinson's is my job now. And his commitment to public service or to service throughout his life was always an inspiration to me. And when he told me that, just kind of offhandedly, that Parkinson's was his job, I didn't know what that was going to mean. He later, was part of PAN and lobbied Congress. He went and testified before Congress on a subcommittee meeting on health and wellness, focused on neurological disease. He got involved with his local Parkinson's nonprofit org, served on their board for years, worked on development and kind of treasury work for them for a long time. And it just added another layer to me as an example of commitment to community and commitment to community over self. So I got involved at the time. I was living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and there was a small fledgling support group there. They had been going for a while, but just were kind of struggling to take it to the next step. And I joined them, was fortunate enough to become president of that organization and kind of helped them grow and develop a little bit. During that time, I also met Steve Wright, who at that point was the executive director of Northwest Parkinson's Foundation, and was at a meeting where he was kind of getting beat up by some local PD people over some decisions that they had made in the organization. And I had a conversation with him. He asked me to join the board, and I've been on the board of Northwest Parkinson's Foundation ever since. That's been about 8 years. Served a term as president for 2 years, and then still on the board and on the executive committee. In 2015, was having a conversation with somebody, and they told me something about the WPC, World Parkinson's Congress. And my dad had gone to the first two, and the next one was going to be in Portland. And so I signed up as a volunteer, and ended up being one of the 3 volunteer coordinators that coordinated a couple hundred volunteers throughout the Congress, and just worked on planning and execution of all the logistics kinds of things that have to happen with an event that large. And then was able to reprise that role again in Kyoto in 2019 and in Barcelona last year. And we're starting to get plans together for all the boots on the ground stuff in Phoenix for 26.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that, and also amazed all the areas you've given back to the community. Today, I want to dedicate to your father and make sure that he knows, and everyone out there, that will never stop fighting until there's a cure. And just amazing to continue his legacy also on, and all that you have done. So thank you. Also, shout out to the foundation also that you're with, and the World Parkinson Congress. We'll talk a little bit more about it. One of my favorite pictures of you is with several little Parkies, and we have. I do hope to also meet you in person. And while we're on that note, I would like to also discuss, what it's like to be within an organization. On the show, we've had so many of them on foundations, but
Right.
it's kind of odd. A lot of people might not know, but I was very involved in politics in the world, and I left it to go. My mother obviously was battling Parkinson's, and I felt the community was much better of a place for me to be than all the negativity there. And then unfortunately, I found even in this, unfortunately, some politics, which is sad, because I do think that this shouldn't be, because obviously the great news was the national plan passed unanimously. So you
Right.
can't see where politics doesn't play a role, because we just all want a cure. But then within some of these, and we won't get controversial here, I'm leaving that for a book. Actually, I'm writing on, and I'm not naming names, but I am breaking the ceiling out there. But I'm out here. I do this completely voluntary on purpose. I don't accept money. Anything anyone donates, even on our website, goes to specific organizations like the American Parkinson Disease Association, Michael J. Fox, Drive Toward a Cure, Power Over Parkinson, because I didn't want to get involved with all of that kind of
Right.
complicated thing. So I was just curious, how can we get rid of the politics in Parkinson's world? Because I think that what we're doing right now is how you really find a cure, because the awareness is so important, and reaching people who might not have Parkinson's, reaching people who aren't affected, but also affected. We need everybody as a family to fight this disease. And just curious on your views. And then actually, while you're saying that, wanted to just share some of your social media, because that's the next big topic.
Got Yeah, I agree. There is far too much. I think that our political system writ large needs some refining, and to make some changes. I too will not go into how I feel about it. It is interesting, though. They talk about all politics is local, and I think that Parkinson's is one of those diseases that not a lot of people have awareness of. And those that do don't really understand it. So one of the times, I think the second time that I went to Washington, D.C. To do Hill Day with Parkinson's Action Network and then with Michael J. Fox Foundation, the grassroots advocacy program that was came about when they kind of purchased PAN. Meeting with members of Congress, if they knew or if they had a colleague, at that point, it was great to have Johnny Isaacson, who was a senator that had Parkinson's, and that the Senate's a pretty tight knit club, and
Mhm.
so everybody knew Johnny, everybody loved him, and they'd never heard of Parkinson's until their friend was diagnosed, and when their friend was diagnosed, then they were on board with, well,
Yeah.
what can we do to help? And so I think both of those times, kind of the ask from the grassroots folks was continued funding for the NIH, continued funding um, for VA programs specifically related to neurological conditions. And then at that point, there was a couple of acts before the most recent success that we were trying to get funding and support for. And really, it's interesting. The only place until recently, the only place in the federal budget that mentioned Parkinson's disease was Department of Defense. So, having some of those, just those awareness points, I guess, makes it easier to advocate, and you can go back to your local representatives and explain how important it is.
No, I appreciate it, the honesty and the advice and also your background. It's just amazing. And also, another thing that you inspire me is a lot of your work on social media. I don't know if we call it work. I do think it sometimes we do it so much that you do have to. But my favorite thing is seeing how many miles you've walked. And actually, this is so. Before I actually even share this, please everyone go and support all the incredible things that you're doing at Grove. Ayers at Instagram, and we'll share a lot of the social media. But some reason, oh, there it is. It's coming up. A lot of the places you've been, and some of them look kind of almost like a fantasy or like one of those movies. But it's beautiful and also very inspiring. I don't know, where some of these are located, but they're definitely beautiful. And I think that if everyone shares and follows you, they're going to have a beautiful time. I don't know if you're a photographer or an artist, but you definitely should be if you're not.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I'm a self-proclaimed amalgamist.
Nice.
Um, so I pull some different little creative threads together sometimes, and I do get enjoyment out of that. Like you say, sometimes it seems like a great diversion from work if it's not work. But
And even this one, I mean, I could stare at this for a few hours and we might forget we're in a conversation. Beautiful. Some of them not
well,
even, they don't even look
and
real.
you mentioned miles. I do want to talk briefly about Charity
Please.
Miles,
Yeah,
which
I
is an
read a lot
organization.
about that. Yeah, before you came on,
Yeah,
I actually did a lot of
um,
research and I was excited to share that. So if you can,
yeah.
please.
I mean, it's an organization that changed my life, literally. About 6 or 7 years after my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, a friend told me that they'd heard about this new app called Charity Miles, and that one of the things the founder was doing was raising money for Michael J. Fox Foundation through this new app. So I checked it out and I was instantly hooked. The founder is a guy named Gene Gurkoff, who's a friend of mine now, and just a great human being. But thank you, perfect.
Yes.
He founded Charity Miles. He was a marathoner and a lawyer and grassroots kind of activist guy, very much a humanist. And his grandfather had lived with Parkinson's disease, and Gene got involved with Fox Foundation and was a Team Fox athlete, and he ran marathons specifically for Team Fox. And then founded Charity Miles as a way to leverage that. And the original incarnation, the original model with Charity Miles was that you got 10 cents a mile for walking or running and 5 cents a mile, I believe, for bicycling. And then all of that money that was raised, your charity, the charity that you chose on the app to do miles for, got their prorated share of that. When in 2016 at World Parkinson's Foundation, or World Parkinson's Congress rather, we hit. I remember that day because I was volunteering. I was running the floor of the Congress, and I got an alert that Charity Miles had just surpassed $100,000 in donation directly to Michael J. Fox Foundation. And I just thought that was so cool. But so I've done a little over almost 65,000 miles on Charity Miles. I've done it for about 100 different organizations, I think, over the lifespan that I've been doing it. The majority of them originally were for Michael J. Fox Foundation. And then when Northwest Parkinson's Foundation was added to the app 2.5 years ago, I started doing the majority of my miles for Northwest Parkinson's Foundation.
It's amazing, and it's even more amazing is anyone can be a part of it, and it's not something that you have to, kind of do much preparation for. You just literally walk, and I think
Right, and
I've probably been about 10,000 miles with you, following you along while you're walking.
well, and that's one of Gene's taglines and kind of the motto for Charity Miles is "Every mile matters,"
Right.
and I think of that literally every day, whether I'm walking or riding or hiking, excuse me, and doing Charity Miles, and I think about how every one of those steps, every one of those miles can make a difference. And at Northwest Parkinson's Foundation, one of our creeds is that no one should walk their Parkinson's journey alone. And to me, those things go together very well. I'm a firm believer in that we're all on this journey together and we're all in this same vessel, and we really need to figure out how to row the boat in the right direction. And all of those little things, all these daily interactions that you have, that I have, where you share your Parkinson's story with someone, or you share an advocacy experience with someone, or you share a fundraising opportunity with someone, those are all impactful. And when people think that, that they can't make a difference, they can. And with something like Charity Miles, you can kind of donate without opening your wallet. And with something like the grassroots organizations that we're both involved with, and the national and international nonprofits that we're both involved with, those are impactful organizations that do it one person at a time, 1 mile at a time, 1 day at a time.
Yeah, no, that's very powerful too. And also, everyone, please follow Grove on X. They keep naming it something else every week. And then also more of the business side. And I love the picture on LinkedIn. But it's very important, everyone, to keep supporting one another, keep following and joining along with Grove and all that he does. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll have him, your friend or the gentleman in charge of Charity Miles, on the show, and love to also express all that he does around the world. Not just for Michael J. Fox. I've, as of today, I kind of slowed down with them, but I've interviewed around 1,000 people around the world, advocates, people battling Parkinson
Right.
and foundation. But just a year ago, I started expanding to not just Parkinson's, because my dream would be to have a cure for everything, ALS, dementia, Alzheimer's, for really all need to help one another. And even the national plan, many believe was kind of, not taken, but mirrored after the for the
Right,
Alzheimer's. So a lot of
right.
powerful things when individuals come together, and also you standing up and not playing the private role, which again, I have everyone's allowed to, but by you standing up, sharing so much of your life, it really means a lot to me and so many others. So thank you also for that.
You bet. I do want to say, that I'm somebody that subscribes to the idea that, um, unlocking the keys to Parkinson's is probably completely related to unlocking the keys to a host of those other neurological conditions. I
Mm.
think they're all kind of on a spectrum, and I think they're all connected. Now, whether they're connected synaptically or they're connected through the gut, uh, there's a commonality there, and I think that that's going to be the transformational moment is when some researcher says, "Oh, this interacts the same way in all these, in all these nine conditions that are peripherally related. Let's unlock that door." I think that's what's going to lead to a cure. And I there's a pretty small number of people in the world that can influence a true cure
Yeah.
for a condition like Parkinson's. I think where more people can have more impact is working on supporting organizations that promote living better with Parkinson's.
Right.
Um, the experiences that my dad had, the experiences that your mother had, and that both of our families had as a result of those. Um, a cure is magical, but every day in between now and a cure, organizations and especially feel that a lot of the local independent Parkinson's organizations like Northwest Parkinson's Foundation really do some of the best, most impactful work on a local level in providing support, providing programming and direct personal services. That's how we can empower people to live better with Parkinson's. And I think that's where the strength of the local independent Parkinson's organizations comes in. Um, when I was volunteering at WPC in Kyoto, I think it was the week before that uh, a very well known and influential tech billionaire gave $50 million to the Fox Foundation. I don't have $50 million. I don't think you have $50 million.
Mhm.
So, those individuals can help do some of that heavy lifting with a booster rocket. But the boots on the ground every day, the kinds of things that you do, the kinds of things that I do in support of those smaller organizations, really move the needle for most people's lives more.
And that's one thing I was really hoping to focus with this show is obviously I love speaking to the community, but I try to highlight many organizations in my thinking, not just the big ones, the national, but the smaller ones, because I feel that I don't know how you felt, maybe you could tell us, but I was felt alone as a caregiver. My mother never even met someone with Parkinson's in 15 years. So I think that if we had known more about resources in our community, it might have helped. And if we could just reach one person, even today with our show, that might be living in, your area and doesn't even know about all that you do. Now they do, and we've changed their life forever. And that's the only real goal I have for the show, besides until we find a cure, like you said. And I think you
Right.
make some incredible points. We're always thinking about a cure. I interviewed a foundation just yesterday, and they're not where they want the cure, but they are actually focused, like what you said, which I don't hear a lot, the people who are now living today, and that's what they are doing is and that's great.
Yeah, I think if you look at some of these independent orgs, and I'm partial to Northwest Parkinson's Foundation just because I see on a regular basis the impactful work they do in the community.
Right.
But my dad's kind of our family
Mhm.
PD organization is Parkinson's Resources of Oregon,
Yeah.
and they serve Oregon and Southwest Washington. And same kind of thing, very local, very focused on how can we make your life better? How can we walk this journey together? But there's great organizations. PCLA does good work. HAPS in the Houston area does fantastic work, and I think you're very familiar with them. There's smaller organizations like that, whether it's the group in Kentuckiana, or I can't. There's one like in Central Florida, I think. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
And so many that at this point we have.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a
But some of the ones that aren't like an
right.
APDA chapter, but
Mm.
they're a separate org, or they're not affiliated with one of the nationals. Those are the people I think that are moving the needle for the everyday person living with Parkinson's and their family that's living with Parkinson's.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we love everyone and we want everyone to work together, and 99.9% are, which is amazing. So that's
Yeah,
all that matters.
yeah.
Maybe we could shift now a little bit more about you. Can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Oh wow. I do use the word amalgamist a lot because I think we all contain multitudes, and I think most of us are generalists, right?
Mhm.
We're not specialists. We end up having to do a little bit of everything. Um, I'm a volunteer. I've been afflicted with that for a long time, and I volunteered for years in the scouting community. I volunteered in the public school community, and I volunteered quite extensively for the last 10 years or so in the Parkinson's community. Um, I think, I don't know, Family Guy is 2 words,
That's okay.
but
You get an exception because we love you here. We make the rules.
but my role as a son, husband, father, grandfather is more important. Probably maybe not more impactful, because I don't know. We never know how impactful we are in our own lives until until we're not in them. But certainly brings me great joy.
Well, you impact me tremendously, even if I didn't tell you before today. So I'm thankful for all that you do for everyone and also for me and our friendship too. This is it's not always fun, even though I try to keep, we had a few people, it was tough, some of the shows I've done where people actually came out and said that, one beautiful woman is now wheelchair bound. So it's,
Mm.
show brings beautiful moments, tough ones, but together we get through them, but this is not always easy. So I was wondering, during times of struggle, who supports you? Because I like to take a moment to thank the people in your life, like family and those around you that aren't really the face of the, all of growth, but the people who do support you behind the scenes. And we want to, thank them also. But who really, who's there for you during times of struggle?
Obviously, my wife is a huge supporter. I usually don't understand why she supports me and tolerates me, but she is an amazing woman, and her love and support means everything to me. My mom has been super supportive to me and for our whole family. Um, she I mean, everybody's grief journey is different, and her grief journey has been different than mine. But yeah, she's just an amazing, impressive woman as well. Um, and friends. I've got friends in the Parkinson's community that I don't talk to that often, but when I do, it's an instant warm hug. David Sangster, who I'm sure you know from the UK, is one of those kinds of people, just super warm, and constantly surprising with his talent, specifically his musical talent. And then he did a spoken word project that I got to
Mhm.
participate in that was just super cool.
Mhm.
Heather Kennedy, I don't know if you've interviewed Heather, but I'm sure you have encountered her in the world.
Yeah, she's been on the show.
Yeah, yeah. Just an incredible human being. And people like David and like Heather and my friend Gene Kirchhoff will call out of the blue on a day when I need that, and lift me up with their optimism and lift me up with their hope and their shared love.
Well, we send our love too and support to you and all those around you that help support you to do what you're doing. So thank you for that. I wanted to now shift a little bit about, we have a lot in common, unfortunately, in some ways, and great hobbies. So we're both children of someone who had Parkinson's, and it's not, always easy, especially now holidays are coming. One question I have is what drives and motivates you to keep fighting and keep doing this? Because, like I said, it's, there are people, again, no offense to anyone, which I do respect that, when someone passes, whether it's Parkinson's or not, they close the door and some move on, some don't. I didn't want to do that because I felt that my mother lost 15 years due to Parkinson's alive, and I feel 15 after. In my weird world, you should live till a certain amount of time, and until then, I'm not going to stop. But, I decided to do all this, and you were joking earlier about someone donating billions of dollars. I think I spent billions on Parkinson's awareness, but not in one donation. But
Right,
I'm
right.
just curious, I know for me, again, it helps me grieve, even talking to you, and you being my friend, which I consider the world to me, means a lot. It just helps me too, even now. And these are not always fun and tough. Sometimes it's tough, but I just think how we're missing a seat at our table due to Parkinson's during the holidays. So, that's a little bit what drives me. I'm just curious, what keeps you decades going through this and keep fighting even beyond.
Well, I think it's a couple things. One, I do think that there's a lot of unfinished work, and I'm somebody that believes in a concept of soul migration, which is that when someone dies, the unfinished business that they have gets passed to another soul somewhere. I, since I'm 10 years old, I feel like that I have some of that uh, from past relatives, and that there's always work to do, and you got to keep going. My father, who was instilled in my sister and I a very, very strong work ethic and a very strong commitment to public service through volunteerism mostly. Um, I think about that as what got me started volunteering in Parkinson's organizations and being involved in the PD community. And then really, what's the catalyst once you're in is you meet some of the most incredible people in the world. Um, uh, Eli Pollard?
He was on the show also. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I met Eli in Portland for WPC, actually, I met her virtually before then on a Zoom call or something,
Mhm.
but just this amazing, powerful aura and this, um, to stay on the theme of powerful, smart women,
Mhm.
um, this amazing, powerful, smart woman that's driving the World Parkinson's Congress and the World's Parkinson's Coalition through PD. Um, Meeting people like that and just everybody, Carl, Rob, and Angela, people that just inspire me every day to see these people, you know, somebody like Carl that's been living with Parkinson's for more than 40 years, or Matt Eagles, who's been living with Parkinson's for 40 years and is my age. Those are my age or younger.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think the people that I've met in the Parkinson's world inspire me every day and give me a reason to keep moving.
Well, I really appreciate it and so much more. So I always say this doesn't end here. This will be to be continued, but just want to thank you again for your time. I have one last question, but I wanted everyone to go again, please, to Grove's Instagram at Grove, Ayers, also Twitter, LinkedIn. Also, I'm going to add it under the notes that the charity mile is very important to support that, and the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation and all that he does. My final question is, if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
I think if it was 2 words, if this was a Webby Award and you only had 5 words for your acceptance speech, if it was 2 words, I would say keep going. If it was 2 words, I would say keep moving. If it was 2 words, I would say you matter. I do think that, you know, the apathy component in Parkinson's that sometimes rears its ugly head is a beast to slay. And Laurie Mishley talks about the social nutrient value of people with Parkinson's staying connected to their communities, staying connected to friends, having those personal interactions that lift their spirits and changes their brain chemistry and keeps them moving. I think that's important, and just not to give up and to keep moving through your day, keep moving through your disease, keep finding workarounds, and always take the side hike.
Well, I appreciate it. And everyone, please follow Grove. And also on Threads, which we're talking about trying to get
I was
more.
going to say, you and I have to be the advocates to get everybody
We're
on the
just
Threads.
only us. We're the only two, and I love it because I get to see you every day. And I always joke and say I see you more than my own family some days. So I appreciate it. But I do have a little message for you and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Grove, will advocate for you, and I feel together our voices are so much stronger. And I always end by saying I'm just getting started, because obviously neither of us have just gotten started. But on those tougher days where, you might have something in life come up, or the world, or who knows these days, and we're heading to 2025, which is amazing to say, but goes
Yes.
quickly. But, and I see your posts and your walks and your inspiration, and it really does touch my heart and keep me going. And I just so grateful for your time today and friendship. It means the world. And I do hope that we have a quick special guest. He's been appearing on a lot of shows, but
Hey, there he is.
I
Hey,
hope that we
Parky.
both give you a hug. And I want to meet the real one. That's been my
Yeah,
number one goal. If I end up at the World Parkinson, is to get a picture with the real Parky and not just the Parky toy. So I'm looking
well,
forward.
sign up to volunteer.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna probably get tossed out. I told them, because I'm gonna have so much fun just meeting everyone. I probably won't even. I'll probably
That's
get.
the
I'm not
that's
gonna.
the best, most meaningful
Yeah.
part, honestly, is those connections. And I do look forward to that. I look forward to a hug and a high five from you,
Yeah.
and we
Have
can
to,
we
have to
can.
wear a back brace. Everyone's gonna hurt my back. But
Yeah, I can understand that.
well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon son George. Please stay tuned. Please share this. The more we share, the more awareness we'll have to come closer for more research and hope for a cure. And I won't stop, as Grove won't either, until the cure is at all our doorsteps throughout the world. Thank you all, and we send our love and support through these holidays as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, George. Keep moving.